Welcome to Speed Vector, the podcast dedicated to the art, risk, and obsession of speed flying. I'm your host, Victor Garcia, speed flyer, skydiver, cinematographer, Navy veteran, and full-time gravity junkie. Every week, we dive into the lines we fly, the gear we trust, and the stories that push us past the ridge and into the void. Whether you're just learning to launch or chasing the perfect line, this is where speed flyers come to connect, learn, and stoke the fire. This is Speed Vector. What is up, Speed Vector fam? Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode number 3. Apologize for being a week late, almost. Been trying to do this about every Friday for the last month or so. I guess 4 weeks now. And I'm going to get into why I'm a week late on this episode here. A couple housekeeping things before we get into it. If you do like the podcast and you want to see it grow because you're stoked on speed flying and you enjoy listening to Speedfly content and you are hopeful that there is a bright future and it's not just me rambling into a microphone about speed flying, please go on to YouTube and subscribe to the Speed Vector channel. Also on Instagram at speed_vector. Still working on all the other platforms, not huge into TikTok, but I might make one just for the sake of growth possibilities for this here show. So anyway, that's the housekeeping. Let's get into it. What's this show about? Well, this show is an update about me and my health. Last Friday, I had a bit of an accident in Chelan while speed flying, and unfortunately I broke my leg. I'm going to get into what happened in detail. I'm going to get into kind of what the injuries entail, what the recovery is looking like, but really I want to get into like decision making and flying in a manner that allows you to fly again tomorrow, because I am not going to be flying for a while now, which is a bummer. So let's talk about, we'll just go straight to the end and I'll work my way backwards. So basically last Friday, it was about 1:30 in the afternoon, I had a very routine speed flight from Airport Ridge, which is like a 600 vertical foot, kind of flight, like lower part of the flight park. It's where a lot of the students learn and do their first flights. It's also where I have well over 300 flights at, just there alone, just off Airport Ridge. I have more than that number total, but I have a lot of reps at that flight park, especially off of the ridge. And so anyway, I launched and I was flying the line, the 13-meter line that I have grown to just adore, and had a very routine flight. Had a really nice swoop. It was probably the best swoop of my day, at least. Maybe, honestly, with the exception of me breaking my leg, maybe one of the best swoops I've had ever. I mean, it was like awesome. And basically, like, tried to get a little bit more out of it towards the end, and I was kind of making a gentle left turn while swooping to like extend, because I was running out of real estate in front of me in the LZ. And there's like this road that like kind of juts out at like a 55 degree angle off like the southeast corner. And you can like swoop the LZ and then make a left turn if you're swooping south, if you're landing south, and kind of swoop down this road and then like run it out there or whatever. Well, I looked down the road, because that's where I wanted to go. And I like lost a little bit of energy, so I ended up sliding on my airbag, Level Wings Fusion airbag, and it kind of rocked me forward. So I put my feet down and I was sliding on my feet, and then because I was looking down the road, I wasn't looking at where my feet were going. Normally I'd be looking at, again, towards my feet to like dodge little rocks or divots or whatever. And of course there's, this is like a public area. It's Gallagher Flats is the LZ, and it's maintained by Air Sports Chelan and everything, but people do drive in it quite a bit. And there's this tire rut, these two ruts that were formed. Someone just drove through there probably in a big truck, probably like a 1-ton truck, and maybe the ground was wet and just created these ruts. Now these ruts have been there for this season. I mean, I've pretty much was there every other day for a month and a half straight, just between like finishing ski patrolling and then starting my summer gig. Took about a month and a half off, and I was there basically like every other day. So I'm well aware of these ruts, right? But I wasn't looking at it. I was looking past it. And as soon as I started sliding on my feet, I started to stand up because like I'm still moving. I wasn't going incredibly fast, but I was in kind of a weird body position to run. I wasn't anticipating butt sliding. I also wasn't anticipating rolling forward because of the airbag. I'll get into that later. That's another detail that I need to cover. And because I was seated and the airbag is about a foot-ish tall, I was in like a deep squat, but I was sliding on my feet, and my right foot caught one of those ruts and just violently cranked it to the right, like 90 degrees, really fast, really violently. You know how sometimes like if you're gonna roll your ankle, you can kind of like adjust and like run out of it, or you can like do stuff where it doesn't just destroy your ankle. That was not happening here. It was so quick and so violent, and it was over so fast that I didn't even realize. Like I knew what happened, but it was like it was shocking, and if that makes sense. So it's cranked to the right. I heard and felt a pop and a weird, just odd feeling in two different places, which we'll get into. I took 2 steps. Well, I said ow first, like as it happened, I was like, ow. And then I took 2 steps and just kind of plopped over. Now, to put in perspective, I was not moving that fast, because if I'm able to destroy my freaking leg and then take 2 steps and not be moving anymore and just plop over, then I wasn't moving fast. It's kind of a freak accident. Totally avoidable though, which I'll get into. So that was last Friday, the 13th, by the way. Another thing to talk about. Today is Thursday, June 19th, 2025. So it has been 6 days since the accident, the incident. And I finally got into an orthopedic surgeon today, and I'm scheduled for surgery tomorrow. So injuries, leading up to this morning, I thought it was just my fibula. Obviously, when it happened, thankfully, my friends were there. My buddy Tim and my buddy Josh. Tim's girlfriend Holly was also there, and Josh had landed before me, and he actually filmed this landing. So I have outside video of it and obviously point of view because I was running a GoPro, neither of which I have watched yet, but I'll get there eventually. So Josh comes running up because I'm kind of freaking out because I totally just broke my leg, and it was painful, kind of weirdly, which makes more sense today than it did then where it hurt. But basically it was like, if you've ever broken a bone and if you've ever torn a muscle or blown a ligament or torn a ligament or whatever, you know the difference in pain. A bone is, it's easier to explain a ligament or a muscle. It is like a burning, tearing pain, or like, ouch, I feel that sucks. That hurts, right? A bone, especially in isolation, is like a very odd kind of like numb, but not numb. It's like a dull burn, but it's not like a searing sharp. It's a dull burn. And when I say dull, I don't mean like it doesn't hurt. I mean, it hurts like hell. It's just dull versus when you're talking about like a ligament or a muscle, it's like a very sharp pain that hurts like hell. It's like different. It's totally different. What I was experiencing was a very dull, painful sensation like mid calf area and kind of like on the outside of it, right? I guess that'd be posterior, like mid calf area. And then I was experiencing like a really sharp, searing pain, kind of like above my ankle, in line with my shin bone, and then a little bit off to like the anterior side, so like the left side, but still in the front, and a little bit off to the right. So that'd be the posterior side. I think the posterior side. I'm sorry, guys. I was a corpsman in the Navy. I should know this terminology. I forget. I'm also a professional ski patrolman, outdoor emergency care technician, blah, blah, blah. I should know this stuff, but I get confused with like the lingo when it comes to describing where stuff is. So anyway, forgive me for that, medical nerds out there. I am one, but I am obviously not a nerd because I would know this stuff. So more power to you. I digress. Anyway, so I was feeling that kind of burn in my like upper ankle, but I thought it was just like radiating pain from the fracture in my leg because, you know, nerves, the pain travels, and maybe it just decided to travel down. Who knows? So anyway, Josh gets there, and Tim lands after me and lands right like just beside me. And like, you know, Tim is a, you know, former cool guy, still a cool guy, but former special dude in the military. You know, he knows his stuff. He's seen a lot of stuff. He's been through a lot of stuff. He's also just like a freaking freak athlete and just I basically call him a gazelle disguised as a lion because he looks like a freaking lion, like he's huge and ripped, but he can run like a gazelle. It makes no sense. Like, whatever. The dude is a freak of nature. Also one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. Love the dude to death. Same with Josh. Absolutely love him. They both took really good care of me. And Holly was a huge help too, of course. So Josh calls the owner of Air Sports Chelan, Todd, and this dude Braden brings the Eurovan down. They throw me in the van. Literally, Tim picks me up, like front carries me basically, while I think somebody was supporting my leg because it was just kind of, it just sucked to move. Like, it just wasn't comfortable. It was quite painful. And Braden drove me to the Chelan ER. And, you know, everybody stayed and hung out. I was in there about 3 hours. They just took x-rays, gave me a boot. They're like, hey, here's some Motrin. I did deny heavier pain meds. So that's, I'm not knocking them for this, but they were basically like, yeah, wear the boot for 4 weeks, ice elevate, don't put any weight on it, use these crutches, whatever. And then in 4 weeks, you know, you should be good to go. Well, it turns out that's not the case. So through trying to get into an orthopedic office, took about a week. Granted, they're only open Monday through Friday. This orthopedic surgeon office I was trying to go to and eventually got to. This happened on Friday, late in the day. We didn't get back to my house until like 9:30 at night. You know, these guys drove me home. It was amazing. Got my truck back. Got all my stuff together. You know, it was pretty incredible. So anyway, I didn't actually start the ball rolling until Monday. So it took like, you know, 3 days basically of like trying to just get into this office to finally get in the morning today on Thursday. Grateful I did. They looked at it and took some x-rays, and I described the injury, and basically through all of that, they essentially said, okay, so we're doing surgery on you tomorrow. So I'm getting surgery tomorrow, but we're not operating on the broken bone in your leg, the broken fibula. We're actually going to operate on your ankle because there are 2 ligaments that attach your tibia and your fibula to like essentially your foot, or your ankle or whatever. And in that, you know, violent 90-degree opening of my foot and ankle and leg, it destroyed those 2 ligaments. So that explains the ankle pain. And it also explains why I can't flex my foot. I can kind of push down, but I cannot pull up. I have been in a boot all week, but you can still kind of move around a little bit, and I literally cannot. So that explains that. Another thing that they found is that because of that, my ankle is actually displaced about 4 or 5 millimeters. So the big bone, my fibula, that creates kind of the bulge in your ankle is on the inside of your foot at least is off. It's like over about 4 or 5 millimeters. So essentially what they're going to do is they're going to make an incision kind of at the lower part of my shin, upper part of my foot, and they're going to put in 4 what look like tacks on two on each side, and they're going to suture my bones together. So they're basically just going to pull those 2 bones, the fibula and the tibia together, and then repair the ligaments that are messed up, and then allow them to heal. And apparently they used to do this with pins and stuff, but the problem with that is they can break, and then they're more susceptible to breaking. And then also most people have to get them removed because you don't have the same range of motion, which I might not have the same range of motion, but I've dealt with this before. I broke my left ankle in 2019, and I did not have surgery, but my range of motion isn't as good. So it's just kind of something you get used to. It is what it is. It's just a part of these ankle injuries. I got to stop injuring my ankles after this. But anyway, so basically, they're going to suture those together, and then 6 weeks, no weight bearing. So I'm going to be chilling on the couch like I am currently for the next month and a half. And simultaneously in that process, my fibia should also heal. They were confident that it's lined up enough to where it's going to come back together, fuse back together, and be totally fine. Would only need probably about 4 weeks for that. So if that was the only injury, I'd be looking at a month instead of 6 weeks. But because of the ankle deal and it being ligament based and stuff, it just takes longer. So it is what it is. It's a new reality here, but you know what? I didn't crash. And yes, I got injured, but I learned a lot. Stuff I probably already knew, but from here on, I think I'm going to pay more attention to these things. And that's kind of the bulk of really what I wanted to touch on today is just being in tune with yourself when it comes to really anything in life, but also with these sports that require all of you, all of yourself, right? You can't, if you're fatigued or if you're anxious about something or if you are, sore or if the conditions aren't perfect for your liking or if you just have a weird feeling, right? You have to realize that those feelings and those states of mind are valid and should be paid attention to. I had a really long week at work, not a bad week, just a very physically demanding week. I work as a carpenter up at the ski resort that I also professionally ski patrol at in the winter. And we got a lot of projects, and it was a heavy lifting week. I also, I'm getting up at, between 4:30 and 4:45. I'm, driving an hour, usually getting some sort of little hike in before work, and then starting work around 7, and then I'm not getting off until 5, and then driving an hour home. So you get the picture, long days, right? And in order for me to get to Chelan at 7 in the morning, 6:45, I have to leave my house at 3:45 in the morning, or 4. I leave at 4 in the morning. So I'm getting up at 3:45 or 3:30, leaving at 4 or 4:15, right? Driving 2 hours and 20 minutes. And then pretty much usually getting there, seeing the conditions are good. Historically, this is what I do. Put my harness on, put my helmet on, get the wing out, check the socks again, and then send it. That's pretty much how it goes. And I remember I woke up on Friday morning and I was like, man, I am tired. Like, I want to sleep. I'm sore. But problem is that because I work Monday through Thursday, I only have like potentially Friday, Saturday, and or Sunday to fly. Now, I don't fly those 3 days. I typically pick one because I do want to spend time with my lovely girlfriend and do things with her outside. She's equally as adventurous as I am. She just doesn't fly, and I'm totally cool with that. She's like an ultra runner, and she does all these amazing things. And I, try to keep up with her on trails, or I ride a bike so I can, or whatever. We go do stuff. We hang out with our dogs, take care of adult things like grocery shopping and cleaning. My point in saying all this is that I don't fly. I only have like an opportunity, right? Like a day or a window of time within a day, depending on the conditions, especially in the summer months where it gets hot, and thermic after like 11 in the morning. So short window. And I would kick myself if the conditions were forecasted to be good and today was my only day to fly and I decided to not go because I was tired. Like, that's just not how I'm wired, Like, in the military, especially early on, like, it doesn't matter if you're tired, hungry, cold, hot, sick, injured. It doesn't matter. Like, you're either doing this or you're not, and the not doing the thing is like life altering because now you're not in the training program anymore and you're doing something else. And like, that sucks. Right. So you learn to suck it up and push forward. And I think that's good in a lot of ways. I think it's good. In many avenues in life, I feel like it's a pretty good way to be, as long as you don't like do that forever and completely burn yourself into the ground and, die of burnout. Right. Where it becomes an issue is in activities and sports and lifestyles that the consequences of making a mistake are huge. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, me breaking my ankle and breaking my leg and blowing up my ankle is finite because it's 6 weeks of my life, 7 if you include the last week that I wasted waiting, to get into the office to get the surgery. But it's 2 months, right? Let's just say it's 2 months and then another month of PT, right? But in 2 months, I can walk around and do daily activities. I just can't like go speed fly. It's like, cool. Well, I can go back to work in 2 months. I can start ground handling my, little wings and on light wind days in 2 months. Like, I can ride my bicycle in 2 months. Like, it's 2 months, right? Not a big deal. Now let's say, and this has happened, you get super hurt. You're not recovering for 2 months. You're like in the hospital for 2 months or a year, or guess what? Like, you just had a life altering injury and you're never going to be able to do like XYZ ever again. Like, it's not like playing roulette, right? But it is possible. But it's also possible driving your car to the grocery store. It's also possible like doing anything, right? You can get hurt doing anything. But as soon as you leave the ground and you're flying, you better make dang sure that you're like landing on the ground safely, right? Because the consequences of not could be 6 weeks in a cast, or it could be your life, right? So having the proper mindset and physical state going into speed flying or skydiving or base jumping or paragliding or anything, right, is so important. And it should be taken very seriously. So about the day, right? So I got there. It was a bit windy, but the forecast was for heavier wind in the morning, or a stronger wind rather in the morning. And then it was going to kind of taper down a bit through like the midday and then come back up like roaring in the afternoon, evening. So got there. It was strong, but with a parakeet and it was cool still. It was like in the 50s. beautiful conditions, really easy launches, super squared up, laminar wind coming off the river, off the Columbia there. And I got 3 really nice flights in, really nice, like all 3 on the line 13. And, but I wasn't, except for like the second lap, I was just a little off. And if you looked at like a video of me flying, especially from like an outside perspective, you would not notice it, right? It's like, oh yeah, he's doing his thing, right? Even in the POV, like you don't really notice it, but I can tell you how I felt. And that was just like a half a second behind. Now, why is that? Could be because I really hadn't flown in like 10 days, because the previous Friday I got one in and it was like a really crappy, like turbulent day, and should not have been flying. I was just stoked to get to the ground safely and like I literally called it a day, right? Like that was it. That previous Monday I had that day off from work, and I got 11 hike and fly laps in on the ridge. That was a great day. So it could have been that I just felt a little rusty because it had been 10 days. I didn't feel as current. Or it could be because I was exhausted from the week and I was tired from waking up at 3:45 and driving 2.5 hours. And it could be a combination of the two things. It could have been all mental. I don't know, right? But I was a little off the first lap and the third lap. The second lap, I felt great. I was normal. I felt normal. The air was like butter smooth. Had a really sweet proxy flight down, Airport Ridge. Excuse me. Really nice, built a ton of energy, like 120 degree turn, got super steep, planed out, beautiful swoop, kind of diagonally across the LZ towards that road at the end of it that I was talking about. Actually, had enough energy at the end of my swoop to pop up about 4 feet and land so softly on my tippy toes that like it arguably was the best swoop I've ever done with the softest landing. My really good swoops in the past, I've either like ran it out, like sprinted, or I've slid on my butt, because it's just too much energy and I'm not like able to finish the flare for some reason. But this one I was able to, and just popped up and then like gently, like as soft as can be, set down on my toes, and it was like toes, midfoot, heel. It was like that slow, right? Because there was good laminar wind coming in, and I was still cooking, like still going super fast, and swooped like 150 yards. I mean, it was like ridiculous, right? But and I actually landed, I touched down like tippy toes in between the 2 tire ruts that I eventually break my freaking leg in a few hours later. That's the crazy part. It was like the same spot. I just came in at a different angle and I tippy-toed it. So there was that. And then the third lap wasn't so good. And then I ended up doing a fourth one, and the wind had picked up a lot and it was getting warm. So it's probably thermic. And the thing about parakites and really speed flying in general is if you're flying through thermic conditions, you want to be at best glide. So best glide on a, traditional speed wing is like trim closed. So the wing's it's trimmed pretty flat. And then you just fly with a little bit of brake pressure and you're just actively piloting, right? So if you feel, like you're getting some bumps and whatever, you're just steering, like you're just keeping her straight. And it is what it is. So on the line though, because there's no trim system, your trim is actually where your hands are. They being the flare guys that designed the thing, recommend to fly at best glide. Well, best glide on a line is like, for me at least, with my arm length and my harness and stuff, it's like pretty much like chest level. And, I have really long arms, and full flight is like hands all the way up like as far up as I can go. That's full flight, so it's a weird position to be actively piloting in. It's something that I think takes a lot of practice, and I just haven't taken that wing out on thermic days because it's just not that fun to fly in thermals. I mean, nothing is, except for like maybe a paraglider, like a full-size paraglider, nothing is that fun to fly in thermals. So I decided I wasn't going to fly the line. I was going to get my 9-meter Rapidos, which does better in crappy air because it's a traditional speed wing. You just leave the trim closed. Had a fine launch. Flew out a bit, opened up the trim, did a little bit of like higher proxy flying kind of around that. There's like this bench area. It's like a little flat spot, kind of a third of the way down. And then I felt that the air was pretty chopped up. So I turned out of that. And then I actually was like, I had to remind myself that I wasn't flying the line because the hand movements, the toggle movements with the line is like really big movements and like very like, I mean, it doesn't have to be, it's not always big, but just bear with me. It's like a much more exaggerated movement because of that like range that you have with the, just with the brake lines and stuff and the C lines, like just a parakeet, right? It's different. With the 9-meter Rapidos, I literally am like doing like a 1 or 2 inch movement with my hands. Whether I'm on rear risers or flying with brakes. In this case, I was flying with brakes because it was pretty active air, just like trashy air, not smooth, which I always go to brakes for that. I did have my trim open, but the approach that I took to swoop was like similar to the line. So set pretty far back from the grass in the LZ. And I essentially like I swooped over like the shrubs and crap before you get to the grass. And then I actually like landed, like stopped swooping and touched down like, 30 feet past the grass line. So it was pretty short for me at least, normally I'm like on the other end of the LZ, even with the 9-meter, it was just my setup wasn't right. And also the air was super dirty. But I did the same thing that I did when I broke my leg a couple hours later. So I like slid and on my butt and then put my feet down and was sliding on my feet. Now, why did I put my feet down? I would have never done that before if I'm sliding on my butt. That day was the first day that I had flown with my new Fusion V3 harness or Fusion 3 harness. Sorry. Awesome harness. I had demoed it before about like, I don't know, early May and then put in an order for one through Air Sports Chelan. And it just took like a month or so for it to show up. It was kind of a long process. But I ordered an airbag with it because I was like, why not be a little safer? This harness system is safe. I was coming from the Brave 3, which like doesn't have any protection really. It's a great harness. I put, well over 400 flights on that thing. But anyway, I got the Fusion running the airbag, and it's about a foot, maybe 8-9 inches to a foot, like below you, like the bottom of it. So when you slide it in, there's got to be a way to like counter this, but I've found in my 2 data points now that it rolls you forward. And, I'm already in a seated position. I just put my feet down, right? It's like you're not even thinking about it. It just kind of happens. So I did that. And thankfully there was no like, crap to catch my feet on, just grass. So did that. But I remember thinking like, I don't really like that. Maybe I shouldn't slide them in. We shuttle back up to the launch. It's gotten like blown out. It's blowing like 20, 22. It's warm. Everybody was going, to like lunch, brunch, whatever. So we all loaded up and went that way. And then when we got back about an hour later, about 1:00, the wind had died down quite a bit. It was like 8 miles per hour. And I basically was unsure if I wanted to fly. I kind of wanted to go home. Like normally if, I was essentially done by like 9:30, 10 o'clock. Should have been. And I even said it. I think I'm done for the day. I'll go to lunch with you guys when I'm done. We got back to the ridge from breakfast or brunch, and it was good. I remember looking at my line and looking at my 9-meter and being like, I should probably fly the 9-meter if I'm going to do another lap, just because it's 1:00. It's 75 degrees. It's a 25-degree difference from this morning. It's probably thermic, even though the air, even though the wind has died down, it's still probably thermic. But I really like the line. I really like flying it. It's more fun for me at this point in my journey. So I grabbed the line And I was like, I'm just going to be careful. I'm not going to do anything crazy. I'm just going to keep it active and like just play it safe, get another lap in. I had only done 4. Normally when I go there, I'm like going for like 10 to 12, and I'm usually hiking all of them. So this day had just been slow for me. What I also didn't mention is that I was like a lap behind my friends. So like, and I'm normally in front of everybody. I'm normally like just a machine. Like I get there, I'm working on something, I got a plan, and I'm repping it out as quickly and as safely as possible to get the reps on whatever it is I'm trying to do that day. I always go in with a goal. I always go in with a set of objectives or just a single objective. And I try to, essentially, I try to have a game plan, right? And then when the conditions start to get bad, I either pull the plug or I wait a little bit and see if it changes, or I switch to like ground handling mode where like, hey, I'm just going to kite. The wind is 15 knots now or 15 miles per hour or 10 or whatever. I'm going to get, my Fizz 10 meter, which is a great, really light, really quickly inflating wing that's meant for speed riding that kites really well. Or I'm going to, kite the line or kite my 9 meter. They all kite really well. They ground handle really well. So I'm just going to grab one of those and do that for 30 minutes and I'll head home. That's normally what I do. This day, I did not have a game plan. My game plan was like, hey, I'm flying with my friends. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to get in as many as I can. I fell behind them. So they actually did, like Tim did 3 more laps than I did. I did 5. He ended up getting 8. And 2 of the 3 that he had more than me were after lunch before I broke my leg. So these guys him and Josh had done 2 laps before I even got off of 1. And I thought that was weird, right? So we got back from brunch. We lay our wings out. I was going to go last. Josh launched. He was flying one of my 11 meters that he's ending up buying that he loves, the old Mirage. It's pretty rad, and he's just a champ. He's flying it awesome. Looks great under that thing. He launched. Tim launched. The wind is perfect. It's like 8 miles per hour up the face, like directly southeast, which in Chelan is like at that flight park is perfect, at least for Airport Ridge. As soon as Tim goes, he's off. I give him a few seconds. I'm going to launch. The wind does a 180-degree turn and blows down the hill. So it's like, I don't know, northwest, like northwest. So like super tailwind. It takes my line and it rolls it up 4 times and it ends up at my heels. And it wasn't a thermal because there's a couple of wind indicators that are spread out far enough to where if it was a thermal, it'd be like a tornado. And they all were facing downhill instead of like uphill, So I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, okay, I'm like totally done now. So I try to like untangle this rat's nest, and it took me the length of time it took those guys to fly down there, realize I'm not coming, load up in the truck, drive all the way back up and lay their wings out. When they did all of that, I had just gotten my wing unscrewed up, which is so I've done that before, and I've put my wing away and taken my harness off and just hung out, and I was content. I was a little bummed when I did that before because to me, I was quitting for the day, but in reality, it was just like, no, dude, like literally like everything is telling you to stop today. You're not stopping flying. You're not a wimp. You're not bad at this. It's just not the time for you right now to do this. I ignored all of that. I even said like audibly a couple times, and it's recorded, I am done for the day. I am so frustrated. Like I cannot freaking launch right now. I have tried 3 times and failed. I'm done. And then we all lay our wings back out. They had just come back up. Josh launches. I literally I tell Tim, who's like kind of in front of me but offset, I'm just a little bit further up the launch from him. I'm like, dude, I'm done for the day, man. Like, I'm not feeling it. And then there was like a little bit of a puff of breeze coming up the face, and I was like, screw it. Got the wing up, sprinted past Tim, and Tim after the fact was like, bro, like you had just said you were done for the day, and then I look up and you're like sprinting past me. I was so confused. I'm like, yeah, dude, I don't know what came over me. I just decided I was already clipped in. The wing looked good for the first time in like 35 minutes. I'm going to go. Launched. Faded right, got into the terrain, made some really aggressive dynamic turns. It sounds like it's not routine. It was very routine for me. Did the 6 swoop, built a ton of energy, like 100 degree, 120 degree turn. Got it super steep and level, planed out, swooped like the entire freaking LZ. And then, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, was looking left to make a carving turn to extend. Ended up losing energy because of the conditions, or maybe I wasn't fully firing. I misjudged it probably is what it was because I was tired. Butt hits the ground, slide, rolls me forward on my legs, caught my foot, snap, done. And now 7 weeks, probably like a solid 2.5 months before I'm able to like truly fly again. Maybe hopefully I'll be kiting in August, but I'm thinking like September, right? So I'm missing, that was June 13th. So I'm missing half of June, July, August. So 2.5 months, right? Done, because I didn't listen to my gut telling me that, let's just start from the beginning. I didn't listen to my body when I woke up. I was exhausted. I could have shut my alarm off, rolled over. I would have been asleep before my freaking eyes closed. And I would have been bummed, but like, dude, whatever, you live to fly another day. It's okay. You're tired. Like, take a break, rest. I didn't listen to myself when the conditions got crappy and I flew the 9 meter for that 4th lap. I should have been done after 3. Those 3 laps were fine. Who cares you didn't do 13? Who cares you didn't do 10? Who cares you didn't do 5? Do 3. If that's what you're getting safely, if that's what you're comfortable with in that day, in those conditions, in your state of mind and physical being, then that's what you got, man. Like, it's okay. I think through all of this, the main thing that I'm taking away from it is just to slow down. Okay, yeah, I'm in a hurry to get to 1,000 speed flights. Yeah, I was. Guess what? I'm not anymore, because I just lost 2.5 months of flyable months, flyable days, and I'm not flying every day. So like, let's say average month, I'm getting 30 speed flights, that's probably like, we'll just say average 1 a day, but I'm not going once a day. I'm going like, in this summer's case, it would have been once a week. So I'm missing 6 flying days. If you look at it that way, it's not that big of a deal. But if I did 10 laps each of those days, that's 60 flights. That's not a lot, especially considering that, I got 130 flights in between like April 14th and June 13th. So those 2 months I did like 130, but I took that time off, to just focus on flying, and it was before stuff was ramping up at work in the summer up there, for, building stuff. So anyway, I'm basically missing 6 flying days. Maybe, okay, let's just say I go twice a week. I'm missing 12 flying days. In the grand scheme of things, not that big of a deal. It's the principle of the thing, right? Because like, what if I did crash? I'm flying at 50 miles per hour, hit the ground. Like, dude, like, yeah, have you ever jumped out of a car going 50? Like, not a good idea. Like, maybe don't do that, you're going to get screwed up. So what I'm taking away from it is A, listen to your gut. B, listen to the conditions, even if they're not applying to other people. That example, that moment I told you about where the wind was perfect for Josh and Tim, and then all of a sudden it shifted 180, and now my wing is a pile of crap at my feet. Like, is that not a freaking sign to stop? Or just ground handle, dude. Fix your wing and ground handle. Don't fly. You're not going to get hurt ground handling. I mean, not with a tiny wing and the experience I have, you could definitely get hurt ground handling, so don't hurt yourself. But the point is, like, don't be in a hurry. In the military, we used to say, don't run to your death, right? Like, be calculated, be smart, be aggressive, but don't run to your death. Another saying I really like is there are old pilots and bold pilots, but very few old, bold pilots. The actual quote is there are no old, bold pilots. I actually don't agree with that. I think I have met some. There definitely are old and bold pilots. There just aren't that many of them. So I like that one. And then as far as conditions goes, I really like the concept of I would much rather be on the ground wishing I was in the air than in the air wishing I was on the ground. So how do you know that? Well, how do you know if that's going to be the case? It's super simple. If the conditions suck, you're probably not going to have a good time, especially under a speed wing. If you're flying a wing that is unfamiliar and way above your skill level, you're probably not going to have a good time. And if you are flying in an area that you are not familiar with and you are unsure if you can make, like from the launch to the LZ, you're probably not having a good time. So set the cards up in your favor. You have all the cards. You do, as the pilot, you have all the cards. Obviously, in my case, I knew the rut was there in the LZ, but I wasn't paying attention to it. So even though I thought I had all the cards, I didn't. Not to mention it was well past 11 a.m. It was like 1:30 thermic. It's June, middle of June, thermic, for sure thermic, and it was. The wind had already been doing weird things that day. I had already had like 3 or 4 moments where I'm like, I am done. Okay, so what am I going to do from here? I am going to listen to that. I'm going to go fly wherever I am, whether it's Chelan or some other place, some other sites that I've discovered or other places to fly. And I'm going to very gracefully and graciously, maybe not gracefully, but very graciously accept the number that I receive that day. If it's 1, if it's 0 and I just ground handle, cool. If it's 1, thankful I got off the ground and landed safely. If it's 20, sweet. But I'm not going to go to a place and say, I am getting 10 flights in today. And I have done that so many times, like countless times, where I'm like, I'm getting 10 today. If I get more, I'll be happy. But if I get less than 10, I'm going to be pissed. Like, that is not the right mindset. It's not. Because I barely had a bruise, you know? I had that one mishap at flight 30 where I got bruised up. Okay, but I wasn't injured. I flew like 20 minutes later and the next day, all day. You know, this injury that I'm dealing with now is way different because I'm off my feet, like literally off my feet for 6 weeks. It's not like you can't fly for 6 weeks. Like, no. Like, I can't drive because it's my right leg. I can't walk without crutches, which is a huge pain in the butt. If you've never done it, I don't recommend it. I can't work because my job is very physical and I have to be on my feet. Like, I am on my butt on this couch for the next 6 weeks because I didn't listen to my gut. I didn't listen to the conditions. And I became complacent at the end of a routine flight. Now, you might be listening to this if you're still with me because I've just been rambling. I'm not having a pity party here. Like, do not misunderstand my tone. Don't misunderstand my words. I'm very grateful that A, I'm alive, that B, the injury, albeit not the best, is not that bad in the grand scheme of things. I don't have to be on my butt for 3 months or 4 months. You know, I'm going to be flying again by the fall when the conditions get good. I'm going to be skiing this season, working, you know, and I'm using this as an opportunity to just slow down and reflect, to build Speed Vector, you know, as a channel, as a podcast, as a platform. I'm got a landscape adult coloring book that I've been enjoying. Like, you know, I'm not anxious about this. I'm not antsy. I'm not like feeling any kind of way other than just just slow down, take a breath, realize how lucky that I am, that we are to be able to do these things freely. Okay. And then when I come back, I'm going to be that much better because sure, I missed 6 to 12 flying days potentially, more or less, whatever. But that doesn't mean I'm going to be a worse pilot. It means I'm going to be like a pilot that's grounded in reality. And that is that I'm not invincible, that my bones do break and my ligaments do tear, The ground is hard and it wins and gravity works. And so do these speed wings. They work too. And I know what I'm doing. I'm not an idiot. I don't take huge risks. I don't do things that I'm not ready to do, that I haven't visualized 1,000 times, that I haven't practiced with less consequence. I didn't just start flying the line. I didn't just start proximity flying. I didn't just start flying a 9 meter. Like, I started with the proper instruction in the proper place, under the proper wing. I studied. I put in the time and the reps, and I still am, and I'm still learning, and I'm still young in the sport. Don't misunderstand. I'm not Yoda, but I am aspiring to be Yoda. And with these sports, sometimes you have to pay the man. And I paid the man, and I still am, and I will be, probably for a while, and that's okay. Because I'll tell you what, in these sports, people, and there's nothing wrong with this, but there are people that want to do it for the wrong reasons, and when they get hurt, they're gone. Like, they break their leg, or they blow up their ankle, or they stub their toe. They list their crap on Facebook and they are out because they're not in it for the right reasons. And I'm not against people doing it for Instagram. Like, do you, man? If that's, if you're capable and competent and you're not going to kill anybody or yourself and you're just doing it to look cool, dude, knock yourself out, man. I don't care. Like and subscribe. Listen to my podcast. Chime in, dude. Talk crap. I don't care. Like, dude, seriously, go for it. It's all good. But you realize the people that are in it for the right reasons, that do not take an injury or a setback and roll over and die. And I don't mean like literally die. That's probably not the right term to use then, but I just mean like they stay in it, I cannot wait to be back, but I'm not going to do it prematurely. Sorry about that. I had to take a little siesta to let the pups out. Anyway, I think I'm just going to wrap it up there. Sorry for rambling not sorry. It's a freaking podcast. Enjoy it or don't. I appreciate you listening, though, if you are still here. Sorry for the barking. And make sure that if you're just getting into speed flying or you're super into it, reach out. Say what's up on Instagram, direct message, speed_vector, or on YouTube. These podcasts do get uploaded to YouTube as well as like all the other major podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever else, Amazon, I don't know. There's a bunch of them. They're on all of it. It's on all of it. So just, share it if you like it. I do want to do a Q&A, but I haven't got any questions yet. So if you have any questions, I think the best route would be to go to speed_vector on Instagram and DM me your questions. Maybe next podcast I will answer them. I don't know. It might be kind of fun if there's any questions out there. But anyway, surgery's tomorrow. Wish me luck. This episode should drop today on Thursday the 19th. Fly safe, guys, and make sure that you make good decisions and have fun. Look cool. Talk to you next time. Speed Vector out.